Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bab Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. Thank you so much for stopping by. If this is your first time on my channel, please kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe and ensure to put on your notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate. So in this video, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful purple gown with basket yoke. This is what I'm talking about. This is the basket yoke on the neckline. Can see how beautiful it looks. And we also have the basket effect on the sleeve area. So in this video, I'll be showing us in detail how to make this lovely outfit. If this is something you're interested in learning, make sure to keep on watching till the end. And if you are yet to subscribe, I already said that, please click on the subscribe button to subscribe. Thank you, and let's get started. So we'll be making use of this African print fabric for this project. And here I have 6 yards. So first we're going to fold our fabric into four, and we're going to be drafting for the front and back together. So you can see that the length of the Ankara, you can see this is the savage of the Ankara and this is the savage here. And the length is short. Ankara comes in 45 inches. So this will not be enough to give me the length of my client. The length of my client is 61 inches. This will not be enough to give us the length. So I'll have to turn the fabric horizontally to get the length of the gown. So this is what I mean. I'll open it up like this and then I'll get the length this way. Okay, so as you can see now, my fabric is on fold. So I have two pieces. One will serve as the back and the other will serve as the front. So this folded part is going to be my center front and my center back. Okay, and the length of my fabric here is about 64 inches. So I added just 1 inch to it to give me the cutting allowance. Okay, so remember I said that the length of my client is 61 plus 2 inches, that's 63. So I added 1 inch to it so that I can have cutting allowance. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to draw the shoulder line, which is the starting line. So again, is our shoulder line. So next I'm going to mark the bust point. So the bust point is 12 inches. So from the shoulder line, I'll place my tape and mark on 12 inches. Next, I'll mark on the hip line. The hip line of my client is 25 inches. Next is the full length of the gown, which is 61 inches. So I'll add 1 inch to this measurement to give me 61. And then next, I'm going to add 2 inches for my hemming allowance. So this is where our length stops. So I'll go ahead and straighten out the lines. So this, okay. So having marked all these points, the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark the neck width. So the neck width I'm working with is a neck width of 4 inches. So I'll mark 4 inches here. So now the fold of my fabric, the entire width is 22 inches. And this gown is a cut together with sleeve. So, and the length of my client, that's from her center back to the desired sleeve length, is 27 inches. So you can see that I have 22 inches here, which is not going to be enough to cover the entire sleeve length. But because we are making a basket sleeve, I'll show us how we'll be extending it. So for now, we're working with this 22 inches that I have here. So here at this open part, that's at the side here, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches for our shoulder slant. And then I'll use my straight ruler to connect it to the neck width here. So now we have the neck width. So the next thing I'm going to do is to enter all the horizontal measurements. And here on the bust line, I'm going to enter the bust measurement divided by 4, which is 11 and quarter. I'll be adding 4 inches to this measurement. This gown is really going to be free. So I'll add 4 inches. I'll be stitching on 1 inch. So I'll be left with 3 inches. So 3 inches in total in all the four sides. So 3 times 4, that's about 12 inches. So it will give us that fullness. The gown is really going to be free and my client wants it free. So if you don't want it too free, you can add 3 inches. And then you sew on 1 inch, you'll be left with 2 inches. So this totally depends on your preference. So here I'm adding 4 inches. And then here on the hip line, I'll also enter the hip measurement divided by 4 plus 4 inches as well. So I have my 4 inches here. So now on the hem line, whatever I have here on the hip line, I'll take it down to the hem line. So I'll bring down this 16.5, which is what I have on the hip line. I'll bring it to the hem line. And and then also to the hemming allowance here. So I'll use my straight ruler to connect the points like this. Okay, so I'll connect to the bust line here. Okay, so now that this is done, you can see that this is our bust line here. So next I'm going to measure the sleeve opening. For this gown, you realize that the sleeve opening, it went down this way. It has this diagonal shape. It's not straight. Okay. So here from the shoulder slant here, I'm going to come down by 12 inches. Take note of what I'm doing. From the shoulder slant here, I'm coming down by 12 inches. So I'll mark 12 inches this way. So by the time we are creating our basket, we'll open up more because we don't have the desired sleeve length yet. Okay, so I'm going to connect from this 12 inches to meet this point here. That's to the bust measurement, where the bust measurement stops here. So next I'm going to come out by 1 inch from this point. Can you see where the points meet? I'll come out by 1 inch from this point and create a curve. This is just to blend in the shape. You don't want to leave it sharp, okay? So you can see how I'm blending in the shape here. So this is what we have now. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do, I'll bring in a paper and place it here so that we can get the desired sleeve length, and then I'll show us the next thing we'll be doing. Okay, so I'll be using this paper to extend the sleeve length. So here I'm placing my paper on fold. Just going to lift this up, and then I'll place it underneath like this. Okay, so as you can see now, my paper is on fold. So remember I said that from the center back of my client to the desired sleeve length is 27 inches. So here is where my 27 inches ends. Do you see? And then I need 1 inch for folding the hem. So that's a total of 28 inches. So I'm just going to mark here at 28 inches. So now I'm just going to extend this shoulder slant into the paper like this. And then this 12 inches mark I have here, I'm just going to also extend it this way. So automatically that means that this place is wider than 12 inches. So you can see it's about 14 inches. So it will give that fall, it will fall well. So if you want it to be wider than that, you can actually extend more. Okay? So now the next thing we're going to do is to mark the neck depth. So for the front neck depth, I'll be working with a neck depth of 5 inches. I already have the neck width of 4 inches, so I'm working with a neck depth of 5 inches. And then the back neck depth, I'll be working with a neck depth of 1.5. So I'll bring in my curve and then connect it to these 4 inches I have here already, which is the neck width. So this is our back neck depth, and now this is the front. So this is our front neckline. So right now we are done with our drafting. So we'll go ahead now and cut out. So I'll be cutting with the back first, since the back is higher. But before going ahead to cut the back, I'm going to add ½ inch here, which is for joining the front and the back shoulders together. So I'll go up by ½ inch, which is my seam allowance, ½ inch, ½ inch, and then I'll connect it with my straight ruler. So I'm going up by ½ inch. So I'll extend it into this point. So this is my seam allowance, the shoulder seam allowance. So go ahead now and cut out. Okay, so now this is what our gown looks like. So now it's time for us to create our basket yoke that we'll have at the neckline of the front and of the back. So already I said I'm using a neck depth of 5 inches for the front, but I'll be reducing that neck depth to 4 inches. So I'll go up by 1 inch. So this neckline is supposed to sit a little close to the collarbone. I don't need it to come down. So I'm going up by 1 inch. So I'm using a neck depth of 4 inches for the front. So I'm just going to remark the neckline. I'm maintaining the neck width of the same 4 inches, but this is me just going higher. Okay, so now this is where our front neckline is. So let's ignore this. Let me just clean it a little. This is our front neckline. So now to create the yoke, you need to identify where the bust line is so that the yoke is not too deep, so that it doesn't expose the person's body. So already the bust line of my client, I mentioned that is 12 inches. So from this bust point line, I will go up by 2.5 inches. So I'll go up by 2.5 inches. This is so that by the time we stitch with half inch, we'll be left with 2 inches. So that is why I'm going up by 2.5 inches. So I'll mark 2.5 inches upwards from the bust line. So now on the shoulder line, if you take a look at the picture of the thumbnail, you'll notice that the yoke stopped at the shoulder tip. So I'll be working with the shoulder measurement of my client, and for her shoulder measurement is 18 inches. 18 divided by 2, that's 9 inches. So I'm going to mark 9 inches. Take note of how I'm placing my tape. From the center front, I'm going to mark 9 inches. So this is where the yoke will stop, the basket yoke. So I'm just going to connect this point to this point. And you see, I'm using my free hand to give me this curved shape that I want to have here. And you see, so this whole area is going to be our yoke, and this will affect both the front and the back. So I'll go ahead now and cut it out. Okay, so now I'm going to separate the front from the back. You can see this is our back now. We'll go ahead and cut our front neckline alone. So this is what we have. So I'll still leave this at this point, and then I'll show us how to create the basket for the sleeve area. That's where we're going to be having our basket here. So now this is where the shoulder measurement stops. This is the shoulder tip of my client. And from shoulder to elbow length for my client is 13 inches. So I'll place my tape from here and mark on 13 inches. So can you see that this is where my 13 inches stops? And you see, this is where 13 inches stops. So the whole of this place is going to be our basket. Okay, so this basket, you can decide to make it longer than mine. For me, I'm using 28 inches plus hemming allowance plus the stitching allowance here. So if you want it to be long, maybe 30, depending on your preference. So for me, this is where the elbow measurement stops. So this place is going to be the remaining part that will have the basket. So I'm going to cut out this shape. Take note that my paper is under this. So this is where we're going to have our basket. Okay, so now I can take off the front yoke and the back yoke, and then let's bring in the sleeve. So this is our sleeve. This is the side that is going down, and this is the shoulder slant here. So I'm going to open it up like this and place this way. Can you see that placing this way is going to give me a particular shape that will make this part go in? You don't want to have that shape. And you see what I'm trying to do? I'm going to give it, I want to achieve a straight shape. I want to achieve a straight shape. So to achieve that straight shape, I'll be placing these two together like this. So I'm going to bring in another paper and trace out this shape. So we have this shape because of the shoulder slant, but we don't want to have a joining here. So that is why I'm placing it like this. Can you see? So I'll place it this way, just this way, like this. So, and then I'll go ahead and cut out. So if you want to know what the measurement is here, so let's measure and see. So placing them to face each other like this. So here I have a total of 1.5. So I'll also trace out this part here too. Then I'll trace out this part as well. And you see, so this is the shape we're going to be working with. So in a situation where you want this to be long, you can decide now, because this is it. You can see that it ends at 28 inches in total. Let's measure it. So this is where my 28 inches ends. So this is 31 inches. You can see that it just increased the length a little. So for me, I'm going to be maintaining my 28 inches. So now, we need half inch to join it to that's to the gown. Now this is what I mean. Remember that we're going to be stitching with half inch here. That we stitch this with half inch and stitch this with half inch. So this automatically means that if we maintain this length, it's going to reduce the length. Can you see? It's going to reduce the length. So in order not to reduce it from our actual allowance, can you see? So I'm going to, from this part, what I have extra here is about 2 inches. So I'm just going to trim out 1 inch from this. So now this is the part we're going to be using for our basket yoke sleeve. So this is where we're going to be creating the basket yoke. Can you see how it will fall well here? You see, we're going to be stitching it to this part. So you can see what we have here. And of course, we need two of this. We're using to create our basket yoke for the sleeve. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to bring in another paper and cut out this front yoke and back yoke paper, and then I'll show us the next thing to do. I've gone ahead to cut out the yoke. These are front yoke and I cut it out on my pattern paper. I also cut out the back yoke on my pattern paper. So you realize that I added a sewing allowance at the side and I added 1 inch for my sewing allowance. This is because we cut this out from our fabric. Okay, so this automatically has reduced the length of my fabric. So this 1 inch will replace the half inch I'll be using to stitch this side and the half inch I'll be using to join this side, so that it will bring me back to the actual measurement to have this particular shape. So if you cut exactly what you have here, of course it will reduce it by 1 inch. So that is why I have this extra 1 inch, so that by the time I'm done stitching the two together, the yoke and the main fabric, I will have my actual measurement. I hope we understand that. So this is our front yoke and this is the back yoke, and then this is for our sleeve. Okay, so the sleeve is not having the shoulder slats, it's not open here. It's going to be joined together to give us that nice effect that we want. So now to create the basket, first I'm going to draw my lines before I'll show us how to cut the strips that we'll be using to create the basket. So here is our center front. You can see if you fold the paper into two like this is center front. So first I'm going to mark a line here. So I have a line here. I'm going to give a space of 1 inch, 1 inch in between all the lines, 1 inch. So I'll mark 1 inch all the way to the end of my paper. That's 1 inch. Again 1 inch. So and this is where it ends. So I'm going to draw straight lines. This side, I will repeat on the other side. We have vertical lines. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark 1 inch horizontally. So from the shoulder here, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. The same 1 inch I did, I'm just going to come down all the way. I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect the points. So these are the baskets, as in these are my lines. So exactly what I have done here, I will repeat on the back yoke, and I will also do the same thing on the sleeve too. So I'll do that and then I'll show us the next thing to do. Okay, so after drawing my boxes, that's our basket, you can see. So the next thing I went ahead to do is to cut my strips. I cut strips from the Ankara fabric. I cut 1 inch on fold. This is it. Let me open it up. I've ironed this one. This is 1 inch on fold. Can you see? Then I folded down 1 inch. This is how it is. It is 1 inch on fold like this. Then I folded half inch this way and I folded half inch this way, and then I folded it into two. So I have a total of half inch. That's after folding it this way, and then I folded it into two. So you can see that I have just half inch. So my strips is just half inch in width. Can you see? So now this is what I'm going to do. I'll place it here at the middle here, and then I'm going to stitch all the way down to this point. After stitching, I'll cut out and then stitch another one. I'll keep placing it this way. I'll keep placing it this way. I'll stitch all of the vertical lines first. When I'm done stitching the vertical lines, I'm going to place my strip now horizontally to stitch this way. Can you see that? I'm going to keep repeating it till I get to the end. So this is for the front. And you can see for the sleeve, I've already done what I said I'll be doing. You can see that I've stitched vertically and then I went ahead to stitch horizontally. So this is what I have for one of the sleeves. I'm going to do this on the front piece and then also the back piece and the second sleeve. Then I'll come back and show us the next thing to do. Okay, so I'm done stitching my basket. So this is what our basket yoke looks like, and this is for the front. So here I have this strip I'll be using to turn the neckline. It's more like a bias tape. And I cut this on bias. Can you see that it's stretchy? You want to make sure that you're using something stretchy. Cut on bias. You don't have to cut your fabric straight. How do I mean cut on bias? If this is your fabric, place it in a way that you cut on bias. Don't cut it straight. Make sure that you're folding it slanted so that you can cut on bias. So here is my strip. It is 1 inch on fold. So I'm going to place it on the wrong side. That's on the back side here, and then I'll place it like this. I'll be stitching on 1/2 inch. So because it is on bias, it will allow a turn. I will stitch on 1/2 inch round. After stitching on 1/2 inch round, I'll turn it to the right side and then fold in 1/2 inch and top stitch it. So I'll repeat the same thing for the back piece. That's how I'll be taking care of the neckline. And then for the hem of the sleeve, you can see that this is the down part of the sleeve. I'm also going to use my fabric that I cut on bias. So I also place it on the wrong side here, and then I will stitch on 1/2 inch all the way down to the hem. After stitching on 1/2 inch, this will allow me now turn it to the right side. Of course, I will now fold in 1/2 inch like this, and then I'll top stitch it just the same way that I will do for the neckline. That's what I'll be doing. Let me show us the one that I have done already. This is the one that has been done already. Can you see? I stitched it from the wrong side, and I top stitched on the right side. So you can see that the hem has been taken care of. It's not hanging anyhow, okay? I'll cut out this excess. So I'm going to do the same thing for the second sleeve, turn the neckline too of the back, and then I'll show us how to sew it to the main outfit. Okay, so here we are. I'm done stitching the bias around the neckline, and I've done the same thing for the back piece. So now we can take off our pattern paper. Just want to drag it gently, gently, but we'll take it all off. So this is what I'm going to do for the yoke. I'll place them right side facing right side, and then stitch the shoulders together. I'll stitch the shoulders together just for the yoke. And then I'm going to pick up the fabric. This is the main fabric. Can you see? This is the right side. I already went ahead to stone it. I'm going to also place right side of the front facing right side of the back piece. Right side facing right side. And I will also join the shoulders together. And you see, this is what I have here. Right side facing right side. I'll join the shoulders together. I will do the same thing on this side. Join the shoulders together. I'm going to repeat exactly the same thing on the lining. So this is me sewing the lining separate, the fabric separate, and the yoke separate. Then I'll come back and show us the next thing to do. So I'm done joining the shoulders of the yoke. This side is the back and this side is the front. And this is the front of our gown and this is also the back here. So I'm going to place the yoke like this. You want to open up the neckline. So I'll place the yoke now, making sure that the shoulders, that's the shoulder joinings, are aligned. So I'll place it underneath. You see? I'll place it underneath like this. You see what I'm doing? This is just to make sure that everything aligns well and sits very well on the neckline. So having pushed it and tucked it in, now this is it. I'm going to go ahead now and start folding. Remember I have my stitching allowance here. So I'm going to fold like this. I'll fold 1/2 inch, which is going to be the stitching allowance. You can see how it's overlapping on top of it. So I'll bring in my pressing iron and press it down. So I'll keep folding this 1/2 inch. This 1/2 inch is going to be my sewing allowance. So take note that I'm doing it, making it round. You want to use your iron to keep it down, to just follow the shape. Half-inch sewing allowance. So you can see what I have done. It's already sitting well. So now I need my safety pins to pin it down. So first I'm going to just lift up this side and then pin. You can see that I already have my crease line. I've ironed the half-inch sewing allowance. So I now know where to pin. Can you see how I pin this side? So I'll do the same thing. I'll keep lifting it up gently and keep pinning it down. You have to follow the rounded shape that I have. You see? So you want to start with the shoulder joining. Once you start with the shoulder joining, every other place will align. For somebody that may not want to use lining, you can just top stitch your yoke. But for me, I'm going to be using lining. This is to give the outfit this nice stability. You see? So here, I'm going to pin also. Just lift up and pin on the wrong side. So that when you are stitching, it makes it very easy. You lift up and check, arrange it well. So when you are working with a basket, when you are making a basket yoke, you need to be very patient. Take your time from creating the strips you are going to use to create your basket all the way to making sure that it's aligned. It's a lot of work. As you can see, I'm done pinning it round. This can be stitched in two ways. You may decide to run a basting stitch on top of this part. This is so that it makes it easy for you. When you flip, you can actually stitch on your half-inch seam allowance. It makes it very easy. You run a basting stitch, and then another way, if you're not going to line your outfit, you can just go ahead and top stitch it round and you are good to go. But for me, I'm going to be lining this outfit. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to take this to my machine and then keep lifting it up. That's why I used my pins to secure. And so this half-inch that I folded in, that I tucked in, will make it very easy for me to see, and then I'll just keep sewing it round the neckline. So I said that you can do this in two ways. You can run a basting stitch very close to the tip, and then it makes it easy for you. You already know where it is, and then you go back and sew. After sewing, then you pull off your basting stitch. If you don't want to do that, if you are not lining the outfit, all you need to do is to go ahead and top stitch it round. But for me, I'm going to be lining the outfit. All I need to do is to just flip over like this. You can see that my my half-inch seam allowance that I folded in is showing here. So all I'll do is just to stitch round the yoke or around the basket yoke, and then I'll come back and show us how I'll be sewing my lining around it. So here we are after stitching my basket yoke. You can see everything is coming out very, very beautiful. And this is what it looks like on the reverse side. And you see, I went ahead to trim out any excess I have. So here I'm just leaving my sewing allowance. So now these are my few observations. Remember that the yoke is, I use the shoulder measurement. I said my client's shoulder measurement is 18 inches and 9 inches on fold. Of course, that's 18 inches. That's what I use. So in a situation where you don't want your yoke to get all the way to the end of the shoulder, all you need to do is to maybe take away 2 inches from your shoulder measurement. So if your shoulder is 9 inches, when you divide by 2, you can use 7 inches so that it's not too wide. If you don't want it wide, that's to leave the whole shoulder open. But that's what this mobile wants. So this is what we have. This is what I'm talking about. Can you see where the yoke started from? Let's take our measurement from here and then to this point. Can you see that I have exactly 18 inches, which is the shoulder measurement of my client. So if you don't want it all the way to the end of your shoulder, you know what to do. Just reduce the measurement. So here is our lining. Now this is what I'm going to do. Already I joined the shoulders of the lining like I did for the main fabric. So now the joint part is now the wrong side of my lining. So this is me now placing wrong side of the fabric facing wrong side of the lining. So just like I made sure to align the shoulders, I'm going to also align the shoulder of the lining. So I will place it like this now. Can you see how I flipped it? and I flipped it to the right side. Can you see? This is so that when I stitch the wrong side, it face the wrong side. So now I'm going to use my pins to secure it. So this is for this side, and then for this side as well, all I need to do is to open up properly and make sure that the shoulders are aligned here too on this side. Can you see? Wrong side facing wrong side. This is what we have. And then I'm going to flip it like this, and then I'll pin it also. So here, so now the other parts, the securing the other sides is just going to be really simple. So I don't need to really use my pins all the way to the end. I'm just going to iron that 1/2 inch I did for the bodies. That's for the fashion fabric. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for this side, just like I've done here, and then I'll flip it now. This is what I mean. I'll open it up like this. You can see that I can see my crease line. I'm just going to hold them together like this. The seam allowance, I'm holding the seam allowance now, and my lining, the 1/2 inch I ironed already, the 1/2 inch I tucked in. I'm going to sew it around the neckline, and then I'll come and show us how to attach the basket sleeves. Okay, so I'm done stitching my lining round the neckline. Can you see how beautiful and neat my outfit is? So attaching a lining to it will actually give you a very clean finishing. Can you see? This is what our neckline looks like. So I've given it a very, very good press. You can as well go ahead and create notches, because you can see this is a rounded area, so there needs to be notches around. Can you see? So I'm just going to notch. So here I'm done creating my notches, and this is it. So now it's time for us to sew the sleeve. So to attach our sleeve, you can see that this side is still open. So this is our sleeve here. The sleeve has the right side and the wrong side. This is the right side of the sleeve. And see, they are looking alike because, okay, this is the right side of the sleeve. So I'm going to place it now. Right side of the sleeve, facing right side of the fabric. Here. You see? I'm just going to place it this way. And then I'm going to stitch on 1/2 inch. So after stitching, of course, I'm going to have something like this. But you can see that I already have a lining. So by the time I stitch on 1/2 inch, this can see this part, this extension. This is the part I'm going to be stitching on. So I'll have the basket starting from here. So I'll stitch on it like this, and then I'll bring the lining. It's going to be a bit twisted because the lining is on the other side. But let me show us, and then by the time we are done, we'll bring it out correctly. So this is what our sleeve looks like here on the right side of our fabric. I'm pinning it down. So this is what we have here. So this is the lining that is inside here. All I need to do now is to bring out my lining. That's why I said it's going to be a bit twisted. And you see this is our lining here. Just place the lining like this. Right side of the lining. Now, this is the right side of the lining, this is the wrong side. So right side of the lining facing right side of the fabric. Just twist it a little like this. Can you see? So just twist it a little. Let's secure it with a pin. So having twisted it, you can see that it will now allow this one come to this side. So I'm going to pin it this way. So here. So now this other side will now come out. You can see that it's twisted. You can see it will come out like this. Okay. So I pinned it. So can you see that my lining the basket is in between the lining and the fabric. So I'm going to stitch on half inch. You can see this extension I have here. I'll be stitching on this basket, this part of the basket. I'll stitch on it all the way down to the other side. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Then I'll turn it out to show us what we have. Okay, so I'm done stitching my sleeves. You can see I've used my lining to turn it. This is what it looks like on the wrong side, and this is what we have on the right side. You can see it's coming out really neat. So this was what I went ahead to do. I placed hemming gum in between the lining and the fabric. This is my hemming gum. So I'll use the other side of the sleeve to show us how to place the, the hemming gum. First, you need to iron, which I have already done. You see, you want to make sure that everything is sitting really neat. Arrange your fabric well. And then here is my hemming gum. Just measure what is enough for you. That's enough for the width that you're working with. And this is it. So once I have that, I'll cut it out. And then I'm going to place it under, in between the lining and the fabric. So here, this is what I have here. So once I've placed it, you want to make sure to arrange it well. And then I'll bring in my steam iron and press it, making sure it's releasing steam. So it's the steam that will allow the hemming gum to dissolve and then just stick the fabric and the lining together. So here we are. This is what it looks like on the right side. So everything is neat, so it will not be protruding. Next thing I'm going to do is to take this to my sewing machine, and I'll be stitching on 1 inch. Be stitching on 1 inch, starting from the sleeve opening here. I'll stitch on 1 inch all the way, and then I'll stop about 12 inches before the hem. This is because I'm going to have a slit at the side. So I'll stitch and stop 12 inches above the hem here. And then of course I'll go ahead and hem the down part and then create the slit. So when I stitch on 1 inch, the seam allowance I'm going to have here, I'll have to stitch it this way and then turn it to the other side. So I'll do that and come back and show us what I've done.